surveillance camera that documents the license plate of that vehicle. However, there is no surveillance unit documenting vehicles coming down the hill. At 2:15 a.m., just after Bryce told his mother he was pulling off the road to take his little nappy nap, his car is actually seen driving past this very camera. At 4:29 a.m., Bryce's vehicle passes by that same camera again. There's no way to really know how long Bryce was at the top of the hill or when he descended the hill initially. It's also not known what or why Bryce was on the hill or why he left only to return again not too long after. But because of these surveillance logs and the known fact that officers had arrived in the area at 5:30, they came to the conclusion that Bryce's accident happened within an hour of his car last being seen on this surveillance footage. So after an extensive search of the immediate crime scene, officers started to pick up on some kind of alarming clues. Investigators followed Bryce's tire tracks, which led them through an access road and past a cell phone tower located at the top of a steep embankment, and then down the embankment itself. What the tracks told them was that the vehicle continued to accelerate without ever braking until it smashed into the access road right below. At this point, investigators have to start considering suicide or at least an attempt on it. Nobody just no breaks it off a fucking cliff unless your brakes are cut or maybe my thought is maybe he fell asleep too. It's possible, being awake for 2.5 days essentially. Maybe he just fell asleep, but they can't rule out the possibility of suicide. So that's now officially on the table. So the investigation goes into full-blown mode at this point. Searchers arrive, flyers are put up, friends and family are interviewed. Both Sean and Kim express their already mentioned concerns over Bryce's behavior leading up to his disappearance. The excessive drinking, the pill popping, the sentimental text to Sean while unprovokingly breaking up with Kim. By the way, not to mention him giving away some pretty valuable possessions of his. His mom had gotten him a pair of diamond earrings at some point. He gave those to Sean. He gave Sean his Xbox. These are all things that mattered to a 19-year-old guy, and he just seemingly just gave them away into Sean, which kind of rubs me the wrong way. It seemed, but whatever. He gave them to his best friend, so. But still, he did this literally, some said, the day before he disappeared. Some said just, in the days leading up to it. It's not clear what day he did this, but he did this, very, very recently. With all of this information, it's feeding the flames of this theory of suicide. Karen, however, has a different story to tell. Yeah, her kid's been a little off, but there's no way on God's green earth that her child would commit suicide. He loves her and his father way too much to even fathom the idea of doing something like that to them. Karen, I get it. But at the same time, the signs are kind of pointing to something. And we can't ignore that. 9 days after the start of the investigation, bloodhounds are brought in, which, thank you Jesus. The sniffers track Bryce's scent to a few areas of interest. One account states that dogs tracked his scent to Government Cove. It seems to be the waterfront of the lake there, at least from what I can gather. At which point divers scoured the lake. I mean, they thoroughly combed through this lake. They came up with zero evidence to even conclude that Bryce had been in that lake. So essentially, investigators kind of just scratched, Government Cove off the list. They're he's not here. Let's go elsewhere. Within this same article that I was reading, it did state that at some point the actual bloodhounds were brought in, and they kind of took on a different path. So the bloodhounds were able to track Bryce's scent from the crash site down a trail leading to a dam on Castaic Lake, which, like that, I don't know why, but like just dams freak me out. Like I got a thing for dams and like mines, like in the water. Like, oh god, they just freak me out. But they track his scent to the dam on Castaic Lake before continuing down the roadway located on top of the actual dam. After crossing the dam, the scent is tracked south to a spillway on the west side of the lake before heading towards a truck stop. The scent at this point kind of just dies off at the truck stop, and dogs aren't able to really trace it any further. So the discovery of the truck stop kind of opens up the doorway to many theories regarding where Bryce is. So after 2 weeks with no idea where Bryce was and no closer to finding him, police announced that they were scaling back the search a bit. They had thoroughly searched all the areas they felt Bryce could have gone, and they came up empty. While sightings were pouring in, none were ever confirmed to actually be Bryce. Now, some kind of interesting facts I found were there have been 2 bodies found in proximity to where Bryce was last seen. Both have since been confirmed to not be him. However, one of the victims, found fairly recently after Bryce's disappearance, was a man named Lamondre Miles, who was from South Los Angeles, and he was found shot to death, then dumped and set on fire after failing to pay a debt he owed. So this guy suffered like a brutal death. Discovery of Lamondre led Bryce's parents to believe that it's very possible that Bryce stumbled upon some sort of shady something that he wasn't supposed to stumble upon, and as a result ended up a victim of the whole, wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. Sad fact, side note, while the search for Bryce was still taking place, Michael, Bryce's father, had his car broken into. Like, everybody there, I would imagine, is either law enforcement or people trying to help find Bryce. Like, that makes me wonder, who the fuck is sick enough to, break into this poor man's car while he's searching for his missing son? Get a fucking hold of yourself. Anyway, so after 3 weeks, the search was officially called off. That didn't mean people gave up searching, though. Bryce's parents decided to hire Denise Savastano, a private investigator specializing in missing persons cases. Denise took on the case pro bono, and she kind of developed some of her own theories as to what happened. Now, to this day, Bryce still has not been found. The case is still ongoing. They're still following any active leads or calls that they get, but unfortunately he just still hasn't been located at this time. So we're going to actually dive into some of the known theories, and I'll even give my opinion on the theory I think of what happened. So first theory is that he had a psychotic break and or head injury. So, sorry. This theory is mainly developed by the private investigator that was working for Bryce's family, Denise Savastano. Denise believes that Bryce had every intention of actually returning home to his parents in Laguna Niguel. Denise bases a large part of this on his GPS coordinates that he had entered in his GPS unit the night he went missing. She believes that the combination of Bryce's drug use and the days leading up to his disappearance caused him to be thrown into a psychotic break. That psychotic break leading to obviously the vehicle crashing, where Bryce then sustains a head injury, further disorienting him and essentially leading him to wander off. Denise and Bryce's parents went so far as to hire a sonar specialist to search Government Cove to confirm that it was in fact not where Bryce had ended up. Now, my biggest issues with this theory are this. If the drug and alcohol abuse caused him to be thrown into a psychotic episode of sorts, how is he able to definitively decide, hey, I'm going home, I'm entering the coordinates, and let's just go? Literally, none of his actions in the 48 hours leading up to his disappearance clearly indicate he was in any hurry to get home. I don't necessarily think that she's wrong in that he had a psychotic break, but I do think I don't think there were any clear decisions or desires to come home in any way, solely based on the facts that interactions he had had with everyone he encountered on these days leading up to this simply stating that he wasn't in a hurry to get home. I think he was just trying to keep his parents at ease and not panic and scare them because he loved them. And he didn't want to stress them out in any way. I think most kids that love their parents can relate to that. My ass will rarely tell my mom what's up when shit hits the fan on my end. It's bad enough that I'm in turmoil. Why am I going to drag her down with me? That's been my mentality at least. Probably not a healthy one, but hey, it's what I got. So theory 2 is he left willingly. Bryce's parents stand by the statement that they don't believe their son will commit suicide nor leave on his own accord without so much as a peep to them for over 7 years. This theory holds water to the evidence that is known, though. So, we know Bryce told his parents they had something important to discuss with them. However, he never gave any insight as to what that was. He gave away several valuable items, including his Xbox and the diamond earrings, both to Seth, which again, feels weird to me for some reason. Although this fact leans towards suicide more for me, to be honest. The wandering around in Buttonwillow suggests to some that Bryce was debating his options. Really didn't have a plan of action at that time, which I can see. That makes sense to me. He did pack a bag, and while he did give away some important stuff, he kept his laptop, his phone, and his wallet on him, and even had a bag packed with clothing with him, which suggests possible future plans and communication is going to be needed. The crash, even according to officials, is 100% survivable. No extensive amount of blood was found on scene, and the windshield being kicked out suggests he exited the vehicle and walked away. But I mean, could have done that after realizing the deliberate crashing of his vehicle failed to kill him. But again, that's saving that one for a different theory. Lastly, the hounds tracked Bryce to the bus stop, where his scent was lost, which to me is the only real supporting evidence of this theory. Although it has me wondering, that duffel bag was unzipped. Some accounts stated that the bag was in the back seat, others say it was found not far from the car itself. Either way, both state it was unzipped and had been gone through. Everyone just assumed Bryce was the one who did that, but could it really be that far out of the realm of possibility that maybe a passerby or a drifter maybe came across the wreck, sans Bryce, saw the bag and rifled through it, took something, and that scent led to the bus stop? I mean, think about it. Bryce deliberately crashes, leaves cell phone, wallet, and laptop behind, but rifles through his bag. I mean, for what? What could you have possibly been looking for, or even taken with him at that point, if everything of value is left in the car and he gave away anything else that mattered to him? Just the thought. So now we're on to the third theory, which is he committed suicide. It's not the outcome anybody is hoping for, but unfortunately, at least for me, it's the one that the evidence is pointing to the most. When you consider his behavior leading up to his disappearance, with the alcohol binging, the drug use, hiding things from his mom, breaking up with Kim, giving Sean all his shit, and the sentimental text, the strange rendezvous to Buttonwillow, and that has everyone baffled, really, and that Bryce literally had no response, the lying to his mom as he literally is driving towards the lake, and the tire tracks confirming that the car was deliberately driven off the embankment. With all of this makes the most sense. I do believe that a potential psychotic break came into play here. I think it started not long after leaving his parents' house after summer. I think he initially was just feeling some sort of way and tried to drown it with alcohol and loading up with school while still trying to keep things normal for his parents while his friends literally witnessed the chaos unfolding. And I believe he snapped, and those last 48 hours were the deterioration of his mental state. His indecisiveness at Buttonwillow and the stagnant, pointless hours sitting on the side of the road while assuring everyone else he's fine, were his wheels turning, trying to find an answer, and at 4 a.m. at Castaic Lake, he landed on a solution and gunned it. Failed, and he moved on to Plan B. We don't really know what Plan B is, and unfortunately, I don't think we will ever know. Lastly, his parents believe he left willingly and met with foul play. Given the body that was discovered nearby, his parents feel that supports this theory best. This doesn't hold a lot of water to me, but I get it. I understand why. Bryce Laspisa has been missing since August 30th, 2013. At the time, he was 5'11", weighed around 170 pounds, with blue eyes and bright red hair. The LA County Sheriff's Department